What is going on, guys? My name is Broden, and today I want to talk about some Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1 was the shot of adrenaline the Battle franchise needed. While Battlefield 4 ended up in an excellent game, Battlefield's reputation was harmed by the 4's disastrous launch. Battlefield 1 mended the damage thanks to its launch and addictive player component. While we still have a year's worth of DLC to consume, it's fun to think about what comes next. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is due to be next year, with the next Battlefield game likely to come in 2018. Considering DICE went all out on its portrayal of World War I, there likely won't be enough content for a sequel. So, where can the Battlefield franchise go in 2018? The most obvious potential error is to take Battlefield back to World War II roots. You haven't seen an AAA FPS game set in World War II since 2008's Call of Duty World at War. At the time, everyone was sick of World War II shooters, but had times changed. Today, everyone's tired of futuristic shooters, and there's been a loud cry by various communities to take first-person shooters back into time. The Call of Duty community has been utterly miffed over Infinite Warfare's futuristic setting, and the Battlefield community has been extremely happy with World War I setting. EA and DICE may see numerous advantages given to players in World War II. Travelling back to World War II would give DICE more tools to work with when designing content. Simply put, there were more guns, vehicles and gadgets made available during Second World War. Battlefield 1 had made use of weapon variant system to pad out its number of weapons. While ingenious, the system only hides the fact that there are few weapons in the game. DICE could use the power of Frostbite 3 to recreate powerful moments from the war. Imagine the landing at Normandy, the siege of Strangeland, and the final push to Berlin. We've seen those moments before, but never in the same detail or deconstruction that could be done with Frostbite 3. We've also likely seen more locations, given that DICE wanted to portray conflicts from all over the world in Battlefield 1. Russia, Germany, France, Italy, North Africa, Pacific Islands, and Japan, the list goes on. They would all be possibilities for multiplayer maps and campaign missions. Given the critical and commercial reception to Battlefield 1's World War I setting, EA and DICE may want to stick to the past. World War II Battlefield game might be very likely. World War I could be a pit stop in the past before returning to the present. Despite Battlefield 4's awful launch, DICE and DICE LA quickly turned things around. Not only is Battlefield 4 extremely popular, but it also outlived many of EA's other games. Battlefield 4 Hardline and Star Wars Battlefront may have come after Battlefield 4, but the player bases for both declined rapidly. Even after the Battlefield 1's launch, Battlefield 4 is still garnering quite a few players. Going back to a modern setting and not botching the launch could be very lucrative for EA and DICE. Going back to modern times could fix some of the issues Battlefield 1 currently has. There are a lot more guns, vehicles and equipment DICE could throw into the game, seeing that as they could create conflict rather than rely on a historical one, DICE could set the campaign and multiplayer maps anywhere in the world. There's also a lot more options for customization, more weapon skins and attachments to be implemented. So many that complain that there could be multiple ways players to unlock them. Apparently the only way to unlock skins in Battlefield 1 is to randomly get a battle pack and then pray to RNGenius that you get something good. Of course, a Battlefield 5 would have its drawbacks. DICE would have to decide whether the campaign would continue in the event starting in Battlefield 3 and continued in Battlefield 4. Probably the harder task is creating an experience that is distinctively different from Battlefield 4. Over the course of 2 years, Battlefield 4's map count stands with a number of weapons. Trying to craft a new game that could overcome 4 would be quite the challenge. Despite the challenges, returning to a modern setting can't be discounted. It is quite lucrative, and the opportunity for EA to implement more microtransactions is much higher in a period that offers more customization. Now, looking at Battlefield 2143. Battlefield's foray in the future warfare is limited to just Battlefield 2142. Coming on the heels of Battlefield 2, there was quite a lot of anticipation for 2142, and the game most likely delivered. Despite being set in the far future, the game still felt like a Battlefield. Fans have been crying for a sequel for many years now, though it is risky for EA and DICE to jump on the future warfare bandwagon. First, a few good things. Going to the future would allow DICE to do some creative things with its weapons, gadgets and maps, without being restrained by history. DICE can pretty much do whatever they want as long as it feels appropriate for a Battlefield title. For example, 2142 came up with an excellent Titan mode, where players focus on destroying each other's capital ships. DICE tried to recreate the mode for Battlefield 4 Naval Strike DLC, but it felt out of place in a modern setting. This might not, however, be the time for a futuristic shooter. Players have turned against the setting in the recent years, with many calling for a game set in the past or modern times. There is also the threat that the futuristic Battlefield game could accidentally begin competing with Star Wars Battlefront franchise, also published by EA. Now just isn't the right time for Battlefield 2143. Battlefield Bad Company 3. Another fan-demanded sequel, Battlefield Bad Company 3 remains as elusive as ever. Bad Company began its life as an offshoot from the main franchise for console players and quickly became popular. The sequel, Bad Company 2, is considered to be one of the best Battlefield games ever, thanks to a solid campaign, tight multiplayer and lots of destruction. Bad Company 3 would likely be set in modern times and would retain many of the aspects that made it so beloved. The campaign would bring back the quirky squad members and focus on their relations. The graphics would look good, but a little cartoony. Multiplayer would bring back the easy menu system that allowed players to pick their guns quickly, choose from a few attachments and select some gadgets, and then naturally spawn in. Oh, and we can't forget the impressive amount of destruction. Everyone wants Battlefield Bad Company 3, and it probably should be the next game. However, it very much likely won't be. DICE doesn't get Bad Company. In an interview with Eurogamer, studio boss Carl Mangus admitted that the studio hasn't got a clue why players like Bad Company 3 games so much. It's rather curious as to why the developer can't figure out why people like their game so much. As such, if we were to get a Battlefield Bad Company 3, it likely wouldn't come from DICE. Maybe DICE LA, who are helming their own game in the near future. Battlefield Hardline 2. Let's get this out of the way. No, Battlefield Hardline was not a bad game. It had its flaws, but there wasn't a bad game in any sense. The mechanics were all there for a solid Battlefield game. It is just that it was hard wrapping one's head around Cops vs Roberts setup. It was kooky and downright implausible, but we did get some well-designed maps and a better campaign than DICE had come up with. The chances of Hardline 2 happening are rock bottom. DICE likely would not touch it as it isn't their spin-off franchise. The Surreal Games is hard at work developing Amy Hennig's Star Wars game. EA could likely give it to DICE LA, but given the low player retention for Hardline, EA likely would have to put them on something new or a different spin-off like Bad Company 3 or 2143. Now, where do you want the Battlefield franchise to go next? Let me know by dropping a comment down in the comment section below. That's all that I have for you guys. Hopefully we'll see some good games in the future, but for now, I'll catch you next time.